Hey, what a spectacular start to the show. This is not our usual hard-hitting political debate. This is a Christmas special. We've got a huge audience here in Maidstone, and we're going to begin with some reflections on the year. For me, 2023 was a big year. I was debanked by Coots, part of the NatWest group, and they thought I'd be too embarrassed to go public about it. Well, they picked on the wrong bloke, didn't they? I then started this year having come fresh out of the jungle, and that was really quite an experience. I'm a celebrity, quite an experience. Pleased I did it, so I started off this year incredibly thin, detoxed in every way. An awful lot has gone wrong since then, I have to tell you. But perhaps for me, the most important part of the year wasn't to do with GBNews or politics, believe it or not. It was the birth of my two grandsons, Harrison and Sebastian. And wow, that was a really, really, really special moment. They've got a bit bigger than those pictures since the summer. But I don't know what it was. But Rishi went for this early election. And I thought, what do I do? Is it really time for me to get back involved in politics? Well, I took the plunge on the 3rd of June, and I did it to the soundtrack of Eminem. Back again. Oh dear, I really shouldn't be so understated, should I? I was also really thrilled, for the second year in a row, to get TV News Presenter of the Year from the Trick Awards, something that is voted for by the great British public, not chosen by the industry, because I wouldn't have had a chance with them. And I think the growth of GB News, the fact we're way ahead of the woke Sky News, which has become virtually unwatchable, the patronising BBC, and I think on this channel, I think what you get, if you watch us live, on catch-up, listen to us on the radio, I think what you genuinely get with this channel, you get both sides of the debate. And often it's very passionate, but we don't bar anybody. We don't believe in censorship. We believe we need to hear all these arguments, and we also believe that the audience at home are big enough and ugly enough to make up their own minds. And I think the success of GB News really is a revolution in broadcasting in this country. And, you know, we've got nearly 500 people here, and all I did was mention twice on my show I was coming to Maidstone. This is a broadcasting phenomenon, and I honestly believe that GB News has only just begun. I really do. I really do. Now, I can't... Something else happened in politics this year that was quite a big deal. A great deal. The greatest. The best. And it was amazing. I mean, there, you know, a day before a US presidential election, quite what I've got to do with it, I've absolutely no idea, but I get a shout-out from the Donald.
He was the big winner of the last election in the UK, and he's a very spectacular man, very highly respected, Nigel Farage.
And, you know, what an honour it was. What an honour it was to be in Mar-a-Lago in the ballroom on November the 5th, the next day after that, as the results came in. No press, no cameras, just Trump, his family, his friends, his backers, the members of Mar-a-Lago, for what, whether you like him or not, was a truly historic victory that I think will change the world. And he had someone beside him, chap who's incredibly good at business, who I happened to pop over and see in Mar-a-Lago earlier this week. Yes, from Mar-a-Lago to Maidstone, that has been my week. And I've got to tell you, those reindeer were a lot more frightening than Donald Trump or Elon Musk. Of that, there is absolutely no doubt at all. So it's been a pretty remarkable year. They're my reflections. As I say, I've been very, very busy, very much in the public eye, but there's no doubt, you know, you think about life and what really matters, I think the birth of 2 grandsons actually is more important than being in Parliament and many other things. And I think perhaps sometimes in the modern world we're also rushed in what we're doing, we lose sense of our priorities.
I used to have to use the razor that my ex-girlfriend used to shave her legs. It scratched me and it made me feel weird. But fear not, because Manscaped is back with a game changer. This isn't just any old shaver. We're talking about the Chairman Pro Electric Foil Shaver with 2 interchangeable skin-safe blade heads. One for that baby smooth look and another when you want to keep it a bit rugged. Get this, it's waterproof. You can use it in the shower, by the pool, or even while scuba diving if that's your thing. This beauty runs for 75 minutes on a single charge. That's enough time to shave your face, your mate's face, and still have juice left over for touch-ups. You'll also get their Power Shave Gel for a proper wet shave experience, and a face shave soother to keep your mug looking fresh and irritation-free. It's like having a barber in your bathroom, minus the awkward small talk. Click the link in the description and use the code GBN for a whopping 20% off and free shipping with the code GBN at manscaped.com. Join the 11 million blokes worldwide who trust Manscaped. Your face will thank you, and so will your wallet.
Now, I'm joined tonight here in Maidstone by GB News' own Bev Turner. Bev, welcome to the programme.
Thank you. And
Joe Phillips, Paddy Ashdown's former press secretary, and a regular on this show. And Joe,
and a local.
And a local, absolutely. And I think you'll agree, you know, we don't always see eye to eye on global warming or other issues like that. But you always get a fair say here, don't you?
Absolutely, and we do agree on some things like PR.
We do. Gosh, you could knock me down with a feather. Joe, what are your reflections on the year?
Well, as you said, Nigel, I mean, it has been a momentous year politically. I don't think any of us can forget the rather tragic sight of Rishi Sunak standing outside Downing Street looking like a seal. You know, and you sort of think, really? A man who can't even think about getting an umbrella and he's calling an election? Why? Well, we know why. He'd had enough. And of course, the astonishing turnaround of Trump in America. You know, he was not looking like he was going to win. And I think if there are winners and losers, one of the biggest losers this year has been Joe Biden, whose distinguished and long career in politics has been tarnished by the way he hung on and hung on.
Well, it's certainly been a long career.
Well, I think he's had moments of distinguished.
I must have missed them. I can't think. And personally?
Personally, the highlight of my year was after the heavy rain at the beginning of the year, which completely drowned my allotment. And I know there are some gardeners here. I decided to make raised beds. And it's absolutely fantastic because you don't have to do it carefully. You just go whash back,
yep.
And everything grew.
So there you are, gardener's question time. Eat your heart out. You're doing it here on GB News. And Bev, it has been a great year at GB News.
It's been an amazing year at GB News. I think for me, highlights Britain's Newsroom in the mornings, becoming the favourite Britain's news show. Anybody here watch Britain's Newsroom? Thank you.
Bev, that's interesting because I spoke to you
Yeah.
on the first day after you'd done that show, and there was a certain acidity between yourself and Andrew Pearce.
Oh, you noticed. It wasn't a natural pairing. I think my exact phrase to the boss was, you could have put me with anyone and you put me with him. But, you know, I think we've developed a mutual respect. We both work really hard. He has a knowledge set that I don't have. I know things that he doesn't know. So between us, we rub along quite nicely. We're somebody described us as a couple that have stayed together for the kids. And it's like we've stayed together for the programme and for the children.
Well,
and you have those moments when you do want to kill each other, but you also have moments of great affection. And
it's been a terrific success.
Yeah.
What are your highlights of the year, Bev?
I think politically, watching all the key protagonists who instigated lockdowns and all of the nonsense of that year leaving Number 10, and that was wonderful for me. But obviously they've been replaced by a shower of shame who are worse, it seems.
I wondered what you were going to say there.
I'm a professional.
Reindeer are one thing, but Bev Turner live, I mean...
So
I've already seen the band half undressed.
Yeah, that's been really disappointing. But seeing Reform MPs get into Parliament was remarkable. Wonderful in the audience saying, you know, seeing Trump win in America was, I literally had tears in my eyes the morning that happened, which if you told me 4 or 5 years ago and I felt like that, I would have said that would never happen.
So you were not a Trump supporter?
Not at all. Like everybody else. When, you know, Trump 1.0, I didn't really understand it. I wasn't really thinking. I wasn't really listening. I was listening to what the mainstream media was saying about him. And obviously everything has changed in the last 4 or 5 years. So now I feel completely differently. And I feel like him and his administration, the people he's putting around him, probably are the best hope that the West has of a peaceful 2025, a healthier 2025, a less corrupt 2025. I'll be there at the inauguration. We're there together that weekend.
I know.
We're
going to be there, absolutely. What struck me, Joe, this week at Mar-a-Lago was, well, number one, it's like the sort of court of Henry VIII.
Yeah.
You know, people queue up to meet him, and they were flying in from all over the world. Massa Sun from SoftBank, you know, stood up and said to the press, I'm going to put $100 billion into the US economy. I'm going to create 100,000 jobs. And Trump got to the microphone and rather than saying thank you, said, make it 200 billion.
Yeah.
To which Massa Sun said, he's a very good negotiator, this guy. But there was an all-pervading mood of optimism. And that wasn't just from big investors or big billionaires. It was from bar staff, it was from taxi drivers, a feeling that the US economy is going great guns, that their lives are going to get better. And I contrast that with the pessimism of this Labour government. Can you believe it?
No, and I think the Labour government have been a great disappointment, even to people who voted Labour. You know, many of the problems are of their own making. Some of them aren't. They did inherit a black hole in the economy, we know that, and we know that there were 14 years of lack of investment in lots of things that we all rely on. But, you know, they've made problems of their own through their appalling communications. You know, to suddenly announce the winter fuel payment is going to be cut without any pre-warning and then allow it to run and have 4 months before the budget, from the election to the budget, you know, and the other things that have happened that have been entirely their fault. You know, if somebody is going to give Keir Starmer a Christmas present, it ought to be Alistair Campbell.
Yes, well, I mean, maybe not him, but I was on Question Time with him the other week. Well, he thinks we are. But no, I mean, you're right. Blair had brilliant press operations, but there's one other point, Joe, on this. You work for Paddy Ashdown. Paddy, you know, had distinguished himself in the Royal Marines, in the SBS. He was a real personality.
Absolutely.
Very charming.
Yeah.
The women certainly thought that, you know.
I'm not going to comment on that one.
But he was very charming. He was a big personality. Take the politics out of it. Does Starmer have leadership qualities?
I think, well, you and I were talking in the green room earlier about Clement Attlee, who had absolutely no charisma, you know, was as dull as ditch water, and you can tell your quote to the audience if they don't know it. But I just think... no, Keir Starmer is not a natural communicator.
No.
There doesn't feel any empathy, and there also doesn't seem to be, amongst quite a lot of his cabinet, what I would call a natural political instinct. And I think that is something that Paddy certainly had, by the bucket load.
I think that Attlee was post-war. There was no television, there was no social media, and yes, he used to get on the Northern Line, going home to Hampstead as Prime Minister, and people would say, you look like Clement Attlee, to which he'd say, it's funny, a lot of people say that. But we're living in a different age now, Bev, aren't we? I mean, it's unavoidable that you've got to have some sort of personality.
And I think that's what's been so interesting, actually, watching Trump and particularly talking about the meetings with Elon Musk. And you've said the same things about how so much of the younger generation are not watching linear TV. They're not watching the mainstream media. You know, my teenage daughter's here today. My teenage daughter's just wants to be with Nigel Farage. Like, how did that happen? You've managed to capture the next generation who are going to be 18, 19 at the next election.
I mean, it's genius. In their seats, I know, she's thinking down.
But in terms of communicating with that next generation, and even, you know, my mum spends all her life on Facebook as well. Like, there are alternative media that we have to get through. The political messages get through very clearly there.
Life has changed.